Goodness is often seen as the ultimate virtue, the highest moral achievement a person can attain. We are taught from childhood to be kind, to give selflessly, to forgive endlessly. Stories of saints, sages, and enlightened beings reinforce the idea that the path to peace and happiness lies in complete selflessness. But what if too much goodness can become a burden? What if kindness, when excessive and unchecked, invites suffering instead of joy? In this discourse, we will explore how an extreme attachment to goodness can lead to exploitation, emotional exhaustion, and even self-destruction. Through Zen and Buddhist teachings, we will uncover the path of balanced goodness, a wisdom-guided approach to kindness that prevents suffering while still fostering compassion and generosity. Too much of anything, even virtue, can become harmful. A person who is too kind, too forgiving, and too selfless often finds themselves in one of the following situations: being taken for granted. People stop seeing their generosity as a gift and start treating it as an entitlement. Emotional and physical exhaustion. Giving without limits leads to burnout, leaving the giver drained and unfulfilled. Loss of self-identity. Being too focused on others can result in neglecting one's own needs, desires, and well-being. Attracting manipulation. Those with selfish intentions seek out the endlessly giving because they know they can exploit them. Buddhism teaches the middle way, a path that avoids the extremes of indulgence and self-denial. A candle that burns too brightly consumes itself too quickly. True wisdom is in knowing when to give and when to withhold, when to help and when to step back. There once was a man who believed that goodness was the only way to live. He was kind to everyone he met, helped anyone in need, and forgave every wrong done to him. He thought that by being selfless, he could create a world of peace around him. Whenever someone needed help, he was the first to offer. If someone was hungry, he gave them food. If someone was struggling, he sacrificed his own comfort to ease their pain. He never said no to anyone, for he feared that denying someone would make him a bad person. At first, people praised him. They called him generous, compassionate, and virtuous. But over time, something changed. The respect he once received turned into expectation. People no longer saw him as a kind man. They saw him as a resource. A merchant who struggled with debt would borrow money from him, promising to repay, but never doing so. A traveler with no place to stay would ask for shelter, staying much longer than promised. A friend who needed help with work would ask him to assist, never offering thanks. Each time he told himself, "It is good to help others. I must not be selfish." But one day, when he himself was in need, he realized something strange. No one was there for him. After years of giving, the man found himself struggling. He had given away his savings, his energy, and his time. He thought, surely, since I have helped so many, they will help me in return. But when he went to those he had helped, they turned away. The merchant he had given money to said, "I have nothing to give you." The traveler who had stayed in his home said, "I am too busy to help." The friend he had assisted said, "You never asked for anything before. Why now?" He felt betrayed. Have I not been good to them? Have I not given them everything without expecting anything in return? It was then that he realized his kindness had not created gratitude. It had created entitlement. People had taken his goodness for granted. They never saw his help as a gift, but as something they were owed. And when he finally needed something, they abandoned him. Buddhism teaches that suffering arises from attachment to people, to outcomes, to expectations. The man had attached himself to the belief that goodness alone would bring happiness. But when kindness lacks wisdom, it leads to suffering. People exploit the good. Not everyone values kindness. Some see it as weakness. When a person is too giving, others learn that they can take without consequences. The Buddha once said, "If a fool is given kindness without wisdom, he will drink it like poison, thinking it is nectar." Self-sacrifice leads to self-loss. The man had given so much that he had nothing left for himself. The Buddha teaches, one must first care for oneself before caring for others. If you do not fill your own cup, how will you pour for others? Unconditional forgiveness encourages repeated harm. The man forgave every wrong done to him, believing he was being virtuous. But his forgiveness did not change those who harmed him. It only encouraged them to continue. In Buddhism, forgiveness does not mean allowing harm to continue. It means letting go of anger, but also having the wisdom to walk away from those who abuse kindness. There was once a woman, a mother of 3 children, who dedicated her entire life to her family. She always put her children first, making sure they had the best education, the best meals, and the best opportunities. She never bought anything for herself, never went on a vacation, never rested when she was sick. As the years passed, her children grew up and moved away. She thought they would come back, take care of her in old age, or at least appreciate the sacrifices she had made. But they were too busy with their own lives. When she finally reached out for help, none of them had time for her. Feeling abandoned, she realized that in giving too much, she had lost herself. She had taught her children to take, but never taught them to give back. Like the man in the first story, she had mistaken endless kindness for wisdom. She learned too late that self-care was not selfishness. Broken and weary, the man withdrew from the world. He questioned everything he had believed in. If being good only brings suffering, should I stop being good? But in his solitude, he reflected on the teachings of the wise. He realized that it was not goodness that had failed him. It was unbalanced goodness. And so, he learned 3 lessons. Goodness must have boundaries. A person must give, but not to the point of self-destruction. Just as a river needs banks to flow properly, kindness needs limits. Not everyone deserves your kindness. Observe people before giving. If someone is grateful and sincere, help them. But if someone is selfish and exploitative, withhold. The Buddha once said, "A wise man gives to those who value, not to those who waste." Protecting yourself is not selfish. Self-care is not selfishness. It is only when you're whole that you can truly help others. And so, he transformed. He was still good, but now his goodness had wisdom. He no longer allowed himself to be drained by those who only took from him. The middle way teaches that neither extreme indulgence nor extreme self-denial leads to peace. A truly wise person is not one who gives endlessly, but one who gives wisely. So, if you are kind, remain kind, but do not be blind. If you are giving, remain generous, but do not be foolish. If you are forgiving, remain compassionate, but do not invite harm. True goodness is not about suffering for others. It is about creating harmony between oneself and the world. May you walk the path of balanced goodness, where kindness is guided by wisdom, and where your light is a source of strength, not suffering.